Hi, we are here in our expert series today, and I have the lovely Laura Lee Woods, who is a certified dating expert, relationship coach, and founder of the Nashville Wing Woman. So welcome, Laura. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good, Tiffany. Thanks for having me.
So I sent Laura a bunch of questions this morning. A bunch of them actually our community asked for because they're very similar questions. I think we all feel like this after divorce. So not to like drop you in it, but Laura actually is also a divorcee, so she knows personally as well. So do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm Laura Lee Wood. I live in the suburbs of Nashville. I have had my coaching company now for 3 years. Launched it in 2016. I was a practicing attorney for 10 years prior to that. I work with clients to help them find remarkable love. So what I focus on the most is sort of the love, dating, relationship coaching to give my clients a new experience using courtship instead of casual dating to help them move into a committed relationship. And I love what I do. And I love really helping clients, especially females, women, really step into the woman that they're becoming so that they can become someone else's forever one. And same thing with men, really helping clients step fully into that relationship goal that they have and making that their reality.
Right, which is out there because I think it's hard, right? You're a divorcee, I'm a divorcee. It's hard. After your divorce, you either kind of do two things. You go, oh no, I'm never getting married again. I don't want to date. And you kind of like close off everything and you kind of become a little tortoise, right? That you don't want to go near anyone. Or you do the opposite, which is you start to feel really fearful that you're going to be alone and you can't find anyone, and you go on a dating app and you're like, oh my Lord, help me, right?
Yeah.
Which is where you come in because you can help them. So the first question we have is, when are people ready to date? Like, how do you know? Like, do you get divorced on Tuesday and Wednesday you go out and like go on 15 dates like I did? Probably not a good idea.
Well, okay, so I can tell you both from personal experience and from working with my clients. So for me, I was married a decade and been divorced 5 years. So I gave myself some time to heal because I knew I wasn't ready for another relationship. There are a lot of other programs or experts that will give you like a certain number of months or a certain number of years you should wait before you date again. The reality is we're all different. We all heal at different rates. I think the biggest thing is, if you're curious about dating, maybe having some dates, but being very mindful that dating is very different than being in a married relationship, and that the new terms of that dating relationship are going to be different. I think the biggest thing with men and women post-divorce is they kind of fall back into that. I talk to my spouse every day. We have dinner together. Dating is very different than what it was like when you were married in a fully committed relationship. And so I think the big thing with my clients is, are you ready to heal from the past? Are we going to do that work together? And then are you ready to step into dating again? And it is okay to date some and take a break, because I think dating has a special ability to trigger our insecurities that come to the surface. And for many of us, we didn't realize they were even there. So the biggest piece is giving yourself grace and space after your divorce so that you're creating a life you love and you're inviting someone to have that life with you instead of relying on them to create it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You have to go into dating as a whole instead of a half, right? You can't be the half looking for another half to save you or solve all your problems. I think that's really detrimental to everyone long term, and why, the divorce rates for second and third marriages are so high, because people tend to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, should you only date if you actually want a relationship? Because dating is so different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So can you describe like the different kind of dating people do nowadays?
Yes. And so online dating obviously is popular. I always hear from clients that it's not worked for them in the past, or they don't want to go that route. I think online dating is actually fantastic for people who want to meet a single man or single woman outside of your current career and social circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it is really knowing kind of what you want, and are you up for casual dating? Are you ready for a relationship? And how transparent are you being about that? So are you telling in your profile you're looking for a long-term relationship? Part of it's just owning what it is you desire.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with what you desire. I find a lot of the divorcees I speak to, they feel bad being like, men or women. Women don't want to look a certain way. Men feel bad saying out loud or whatever it is. you know, it's okay not to want another really serious relationship if you've just come out of decades of marriage, right?
Correct. Yes.
But what's not okay is when you're not honest about it.
I think that's the biggest piece. It's just like totally owning I'm looking for a relationship, or I'm only up for casual dating, and seeing kind of how things develop. I think also just you have to learn about yourself as a single person after a long-term marriage. Like, who am I as a single woman? Who are you? Who are they as a single parent? Who are you as a single parent? So there's a lot of sort of identity pieces that go into that. And I think we learn so much about what we don't want from old relationships, and we don't always spend enough time thinking about what we do want or what we can create in future relationships.
Right. I think you're right. I think we kind of end up settling for anything that's not bad. Right. And so if you don't know what is good to you, how can you possibly even look for it? You don't know what you're looking for.
Right. Or one really good activity I have my clients do is to really visualize, like, how does it feel to be with him or her, with your forever person? And what are the feelings you experience deep within you? Love, compassion, empathy, kindness. They're nice. What are their love languages, to really help you feel like, what would it feel like to be loved and to be in the caliber of relationship you desire to have with someone?
Absolutely. Okay. So you're helping me because I'm a divorcee. Let's pretend we'll role play a little bit. So Laura, I'm ready to date. So where do I start? Because that's what people ask me constantly. Like, where do you start? It feels so overwhelming.
So I would start by asking, what are you looking for? What are you interested in finding?
Right. So let's say I'm interested in actually finding a boyfriend now. Right.
Okay.
I kind of have taken some time to myself, and now I'm like, okay, I actually would like to be in a relationship. I'd like to have somebody to go to dinner with, go to movies, plan a trip, you know, all that fun stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Totally get it. So are you open to online dating?
Well, yes, I think you have to be, right? That's a question for you. Do you have to be? Like, what do you do if you don't do that?
I have clients who aren't interested in online dating, and that's okay. We find other ways for them to interact with singles who would have something in common. I think online dating is a really great way to meet people who have similar interests that you have, because that's what you put in your profile, things that someone else can relate to, things they also would enjoy. And so what I'd like to do, Tiffany, is to talk about the things we might put in a dating profile that would really help you move toward creating that relationship you desire, and really help you own that you're ready for a relationship. You're not up for just coffee and happy hour and casual drinks, that you're looking for something more substantial and more committed.
Well, and that's true, because actually it almost doesn't matter in a certain way if you're telling somebody who you meet at barbecue at a friend's house, right? What you want and about yourself is very similar to writing it down on a profile. So what should I be telling people in my profile, or telling people if I don't want an online date in real life? Like, what do I put out there and what do I not say?
Absolutely. So I think the first thing that I work with clients is to really focus on, like, what are your diverse interests? Because your goal in having conversation live with someone is to create a similarity. You can feel when you are exchanging energy, both of you are flowing in the conversation. You want online dating to be a very similar experience. So you would put in there, I love horseback riding, but I really love Maroon 5, or whatever your sort of diverse things you enjoy. What are you looking for, and how would you describe yourself? So I have clients talk about educated, ambitious, successful, yoga instructor, whatever their things are to describe themselves. And then also to put in there something that they're looking for, whether it's long-term relationship. And that conversation's easier the more you really come to terms with, this is what I'm looking for, and I'm not available for anything less than a committed relationship. That conversation's a lot easier when you're talking to people about casual dating. It really wasn't for me. I'm really looking for a relationship. And talk about the things you're looking forward to doing with someone else, whether that be traveling. I have this trip coming up, and I'd love to backpack across Europe with a partner. Just naturally allow yourself to talk about what a relationship would mean to you, and to also be selective about who you date. My dad gave me a great piece of advice. You can't always choose who you fall in love with. You can choose who you date.
Ah, that's very good, right? And that's just like very, very important to think of that, because we accidentally get into relationships. We fall into them, and it's very easy, impossible to get out of.
Yes.
right?
Yeah, especially with casual dating. Just, because of the rules can be very confusing, especially for somebody new. The one, I think, most important thing about online dating is to make sure you're having a short chat and then you're transitioning over into actually meeting in real life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and honesty too. So somebody once told me a funny story about going on that online profile and saying they were like really into rock climbing and fitness and whatever, and they weren't like that at all because they were attracted to people who were like that. And then they wanted, and then the person wanted them to go on a first date, and they were trying to get out of it. And I was saying, well, how can you start a relationship on a lie?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You shouldn't. I think being very clear about your intentions makes dating much easier.
Well, yeah, and the honesty, right? Why lie? If you're not really active and don't want to go on a 5-mile trek, you probably shouldn't say you do.
Absolutely, yes.
Or you speak French and you don't, or whatever, because eventually you'll get caught out, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what safety measures? So especially as a woman, but even as a man, I actually have had clients who helped through the divorce who've told me awful stories about what women do when they lie about things. What's the safety parameters?
So my best friend and I started this when we first became single. We got divorced about the same time 5 years ago. And so we both began with online dating. It was my first time ever having tried online dating as an early 30-something. The one thing I think is most important is to let someone else know where you're going to be and where you're going. So whether that's turning on your location, so whoever your best friend is, it's always good to have someone who knows where you're meeting the person. So there's kind of a couple of things. Take a screenshot of the person you're meeting. Make sure you ask in advance for a last name before you actually meet them.
Do you Google them or no? Is that?
So, you know what? I think that there's a lot of useful information on Google. There's also, I think you can run down this road of gathering too much information too quickly, too early, which then you're not really allowing yourself to be fully present with the person because you're focused on the other things you've heard about online.
Well, and also, is it healthy to start a relationship by basically stalking somebody?
No, it is not. It is not. And I think, sharing location, sharing a photo, sharing first and last name with a friend, and then checking in with that friend. One other great tip I learned from 10 years of practicing law, 4 of which were spent as a criminal prosecutor, it's always important to take a photo of your car. So I recommend on a first, second, third, even sometimes a 4th or 5th date that a woman in particular drive or take an Uber to the date location and that you take a photo of where you park. There's 2 reasons for that. 1, so you don't forget where you parked your car. And number 2, it also uploads to the cloud. In case something does happen, you have an additional piece of data that's uploading and the detective could access in the future if there were to be, any particular reason to investigate where you were last seen or where you last parked your car.
So I noticed when I was dating after my divorce initially a lot, like often people will try and go, oh, we had a really good dinner, we had a really good coffee, whatever. Do you want to come sit in my car? Do you want to drive somewhere else in my car? What do you think about that?
No. So I think until you know somebody, yeah, and maybe it goes back to those years as a criminal prosecutor, I think that you really, and I focus on a courtship model with my clients because they're looking for that kind of forever love. So, but I do think, what you need to think about is safety. How well do you know this person? And in particular, I preach to my clients a 2-drink limit on those first few dates. I think the other part of that is, getting in a car with someone who's had any level of alcohol and you don't know them well enough to know how that alcohol is going to impact them. So I think the safest, by far in our modern society, safest thing to do is to meet someone at the location where you're having the date. And when it's over, and I'd have a kind of a general idea of when it is you need to head home because you have to check in with someone on the way home. Just let them know the date went well and that you're at home safely.
Okay. No, that's really good. And actually drinking, I didn't think about it, but you also don't know how many drinks somebody had before they even met you, right? For dinner or drinks or lunch, or you don't know where they came from. You don't know what really is going on.
Absolutely.
So I think that is really important. And either way, male or female.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Right? Well, and I do hear, I certainly have had some dates where someone has pre-partied or had a drink or two to take the edge off before the date, and then they consume a few more during the date. That's not attractive. And 2, they're not really in full control of experiencing what the date is like with me or with whoever they're out with. So I think it's important. Limiting alcohol goes a long way in having successful dates.
Yeah, no, I think that's good information. Okay, so the next question that somebody asked us was, what should we be looking for in other people's profiles? Are there any things that are good or red flags and you run from? Like, what do we do, men and women, on profiles? What's the big red flag?
Okay, well, let's start with the things that are good. So you want a man or woman to have written a profile about themselves, so you know something. The key there is finding common interest. If you're going to successfully date someone and create a lasting relationship, or even just casually date someone, you're going to want to know that they share enough in common with you that you both actually can enjoy the dates that that time you have together. So that's the big thing, is looking for common interest, because without something in common, it's hard to build the foundation of a relationship, because you're not sharing those moments that really light the both of you up. So for instance, being outdoors. It's not my thing, but I've worked with a lot of men and women who love to hike and camp and all that great stuff. That's just not who I am, nor do I want to spend a date night doing that. And so I'm a pay attention to what I read in other people's profile. I tell my clients to do the same. What you need to look for as far as red flags, one of the biggest things is listen to what they're telling you. So it can be hard to write your own profile, but if you read the profile and intuitively something doesn't add up, it doesn't make sense. The photos look like they're 5 or 10 years old. The conversation starts out not really in a respectful way. Those are kind of some red flags that it's not going to be someone that you're going to enjoy spending time with on a date. I think what people say about themselves is important. What jokes they make, how does that land with you? Are they saying negative things about themselves or online dating when you're there to actually find a relationship? I think that's one of the biggest flags is, maybe they have some shame around online dating and feel like they're desperate, but that's not the reason any of us do online dating. We do that to meet high quality people. And so I think that's part of it.
So what about the, and I know men and women are equally guilty of this. What about the people who give you the long, huge list of what is not acceptable or what they don't like,
Right. So those are red flags. There's a past relationship where they've experienced something similar. Either it was omitted from the relationship or was an active part. And so now they have like this, I call them non-negotiables, but putting that in a profile is not going to attract the type of high caliber relationship you desire.
Because it's very negative, isn't it? It's very negative to start by saying everything you don't want.
Absolutely. And is that the type of person you want to have a date with? No. Typically, that's a person who knows what they don't want, may not even be clear on what they do want, and can they recognize those things in you? And so if they're telling all the things they don't want, some other man or woman has created that belief that man's not going to tolerate those things. And I think those are really strong beliefs and positions they're taking without actually ever having met you.
Right. Yeah. Right. And some of the things I think I remember from looking on people's profiles is, the fact that they even have to point out that is not acceptable was a little odd, right?
Right.
It's like an extreme version of who you are, which I think is kind of a red flag anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Laura, so I found the perfect person and I'm on this date. And so now I'm having dinner with this person and everything's going well. So they ask, because everybody does, so what happened in your divorce?
Oh, yes. The magical question. The one in which people want to crawl under the table. Yes.
So how do we handle that? Do we answer it? Do we not? Do we spend the whole dinner talking about our exes? What?
No. So, I tell clients be fully present when you're on a date. That question is something that can throw people into a tailspin. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to create any more positive physical chemistry or connection between you and your date. If anything, it's going to send up red flags all over the place that they've got unfinished business, or they've got those beliefs that are carrying over. Every woman acts like this, or every man acts like this. There's globalization of behavior. I think the best thing, when I'm divorced, but focus on life after divorce. So I'm divorced. I've been divorced 5 years, Tiffany. You have really learned a lot about myself in that time period. My son and I have become closer. I've learned a lot about my own love languages and how I create love with someone. I've really got to enjoy the city a lot more since I've been single. And now I've made a career out of it. The difference in that is focusing on the great things that come after divorce, the life that you're creating. I think that's the biggest difference between being married and being single. When you're married, you're creating a life with someone else. When you're single, and for me, it was the first time in my life at the age of 33, was to sit back and say, I get to create the life that I want now. I get to create the business that I'm really passionate about. And so that's the biggest thing I think you focus on. Yes, you're divorced. Nothing you say at that dinner table to your date help them understand any better than the life you've created after divorce, because that's the life you're living, not the one when you were married. We sort of get in a tailspin when we start talking about the marriage and how bad the divorce was, and money comes up, religion comes up, all these topics we avoid surface. I think if you just really focus on life after divorce and your perspective now, that's a much easier way to carry the conversation and will create a much better impression.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I think what you said was completely true. So if you think of it like it's a PR experience or a media experience, if somebody asks you any uncomfortable question during your date, you answer it with what you want to answer it with, right? You don't answer the question. And later on, when you're in, if you choose to go on multiple other dates with them and actually begin a relationship, then you can start opening up about what happened or didn't, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I think you're 100% right. First dates especially, there should only be information about you and them, and that's it.
Yeah, and what the two of you enjoy and share in common.
Okay, well, thank you, Laura. You've been lovely as always. Where can people find you or find more information on you?
Absolutely. So, yes, you can find me online at lauraleewood.com, LauraLeewood.com. And feel free to reach out, send a message. Let's get a time to talk on the calendar so you and I can connect on a deeper level and see if coaching could be of benefit to you. Thank you for having me, Tiffany.
Thanks, Laura. And thank you for being one of our experts. We look forward to more of your videos in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tiffany.